I'm here with Andrew Crossley, who's a property advisor and buyer's agent. Andrew, you've also written a book called Property Investing Made Simple.
I have, Julie. Thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about how you got into property?
I was in private banking overseas for many years and came to Australia and realised that negative gearing and tax benefits from property can help people build wealth through property. So I thought, well, look, I wanted a comfortable future for my family. And I think having invested in shares overseas, I realised that property for me was better.
Right. I think that's what a lot of people sort of think it's sort of, a safer option to build a portfolio. So did you actually build one yourself?
I have. So I've built around 11 properties at the moment.
Okay.
And still growing.
That's pretty good, isn't it, 11?
It is, and I'm enjoying it. It's important to have a balanced approach to building a portfolio. I think a lot of people struggle to get beyond the first or second one.
Yeah.
Because they're focused on one strategy over another. And I think you need to have a balance of capital growth and cash flow.
So this is the theme of your book, which is basically to make those strategies simple for people to understand. And of course, it was a bestseller on Amazon.
I was blown away with the success of the book. When I launched it in March, it became #1 in the world in Amazon in real estate.
In real estate, wow.
I think a lot of authors write a book based on their vested interests in what they're talking about, particularly in real estate. They have an approach of just one approach, whether it's off the plan or house and land, established properties, units, and it's all very confusing for the public to understand that there isn't just one strategy they should think about. There are several, and not every strategy is right for every person.
And so that's where you sort of come and you actually meet with people and help them to work out what strategy is best for them as well.
That's right. My passion is to help them avoid spruikers, those salespeople, those property marketing companies who have a property lined up. They represent the developer rather than the buyer. And there are too many people that get drawn in by these salespeople who have a lovely brochure and talk about parkland and glossy bench tops. And it's more about the facts and figures rather than the hearsay and what they've got lined up that the investors should be focused on.
And that's handy for your background in banking as well, so you can understand their financial situation.
It's important to look at their financial situation, their risk profile and their goals before even looking at a property.
Yes, and most people start with the property first.
They do.
Think, how can I become an investor?
That's right, and this is why a lot of people, I don't think, succeed as much as they could do if they looked at their strategy and a plan rather than just a property in isolation, and rather than being sold to by someone who doesn't in fact represent the buyer's best interests.
So I'll just go through your book because it's quite interesting, some of the topics. The first segment says overcoming the fear factor.
Yes, I think a lot of people are focused more about being worried about making a mistake now. I think if the fear of doing nothing was greater than the fear of doing something, more people will take action.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some people rely on the government or want to rely on the government to help them in retirement. What concerns me is the government not having enough money to fund my generation's retirement in 20 or 30 years' time.
Yes, I think that's a few for a lot of people. Then the next thing, of course, is the game plan. So that's where you sit down and look at somebody's individual situation.
It's important to determine, as I said earlier, the risk profile, the person's goals, and work backwards. Work backwards to determine whether it's a capital growth property for their first or second property or a cash flow focused property. It's important to have a game plan and a balanced approach to both those things. If you just focus on capital growth, you could run out of the ability to afford another loan in a lender's eyes.
Right, so that's important to have a bit of both then. So you need to have one that's both capital growth and yield. That's
right, because if you also take into account cash flow, you can improve your ability to borrow more money. But if you only focus on cash flow, you could run out of cash or equity or growth in your properties to continue funding deposits for more properties. So you need both.
Now, another thing that people often go into property investment for is the negative gearing and the tax benefits. What's your view of that?
I think tax benefits is great. It reduces the holding cost. Negative gearing can be good. It's not the be-all and end-all, and I think that the problem with negative gearing, a lot of investors overly negative gear for their income or their surplus cash. So it could negatively impact on their lifestyle if they don't do it appropriately or best for their individual circumstances.
Andrew, one of the main chapters in the book is property advice.
So property advice in Australia is one of the most rapidly emerging markets. A lot of the public are not aware that they can go to someone who represents the buyer, not the seller. They can avoid real estate agents who represent the seller. They can avoid property marketing companies who represent the developer and seller. So property advice is something that I think everybody needs, everybody should seek out and find. And it is there, and I'm just trying to help as many people as possible make better decisions with property investing.
So Andrew, where can we get a copy of your great book?
They can go to the website, Property Investing Made Simple, and order one there. It's also in stores around Australia.
Oh, that's great. So it's like Dymocks or just the usual bookstores.
Yes.
Great. Okay, well there you go. You can go to the website Property Investing Made Simple and pick up a copy of Andrew's great book.